Greetings of peace and goodwill. My name is Chris Jean Limpiado, and in this video, I will discuss about a certain movie regarding sorcery and witchcraft. During my discussion, I will answer 5 questions with respect to the said movie. Now, let's get started. First question, what is the title of the movie? The movie is entitled Fantastic Beasts: The Crimes of Grindelwald, the direct sequel and the second installment of the series of films based on Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, one of the companion books to J.K. Rowling's Harry Potter series. So I chose this movie because I'm a huge Potterhead. Second question, where and when is the setting of this story? The story takes place in New York, London, and Paris, starting around March 1927. It follows Newt Scamander and Albus Dumbledore as they attempt to take down the dark wizard Gellert Grindelwald while facing new threats in a more divided wizarding world. Third question, based on the aforementioned elements, from which culture does the film base its conception of sorcery and witchcraft? Okay, so my answer is the film based its conception of sorcery and witchcraft from folklore and ancient cultures of magic in London, the capital of England and United Kingdom. Witchcraft had been a prevalent practice among those who inclined themselves with supernatural and magical forces of nature during the 1900s. There are varying degrees of witchcraft and sorcery that they practice, such as magic, spellcraft, and the potions from ancient times to the present day. And that, I think, is the reason why magic has haunted the human imagination so persistently and how it continues to resonate even today. Fourth question, how do the elements of the film achieve a seemingly realistic description of sorcery and witchcraft? The elements of the film achieve a seemingly realistic description of sorcery and witchcraft by incorporating multitude of forbidden practices that was being practiced by witches and wizards, such as spells and charms. So, magic was unable to be performed by non-magic people. They are more commonly known as muggles in the Harry Potter series, which was not separated the muggle world from the wizarding world. As a substitute for magic, muggles use technology, but in the same sense, many wizards were ignorant of the workings of most muggle devices, including electricity. Both muggles and wizards viewed their choice of tool as completely and utterly logical and ordinary, although each would find the other's tool fascinating or even mysterious. Now, from that, we can really tell that the film still highlights how most people view sorcery and witchcraft, that not everyone is endowed with such ability, and while how they incorporate various types of sorcery and witchcraft presents relevance, because it is inarguable that from what we perceive as witchcraft or sorcery, the use of spells and potions, among others, was effectively particularized all throughout the movie. Fifth question, how does the movie present sorcery and witchcraft? Okay, so the movie presents sorcery and witchcraft through representations of spells, the commonly known every-purpose tool of a wizard or a witch, short bursts of magic used to accomplish a single specialized task, such as opening locks or creating fire. Spells were divided into rough categories such as charms, curses, hexes, or jinxes. Typically, casting required an incantation, most often in a modified form of Latin, and gesturing with a wand in the case of humans. So, however, these seem to be aids to the will only. Wands merely focused on a person's magic. It was evidently also possible to use a wand without holding it. So, A witch or a wizard can perform lumus to light his wand when it was lying in the ground somewhere near him. So additionally, animagi and metamorphagi did not need wands to undergo their transformations. A wand is focused to magic such a significant degree that the vast majority of witches and wizards were often powerless without one. So, however, one could do magic without a wand, though it was often unfocused and uncontrolled. Still, a few wizards could perform directed magic without a wand if they had enough skill and power, but it was still more difficult and tiring. A wizard or a witch was at their best when using their own wand. When using another's, one's spells were not as strong as they normally would be, as dedicated by the loss of a wand lore. So Dumbledore, using non-verbal and wandless magic, spells could be cast non-verbally, but again, most still required a wand for this. This technique was taught in the 6th year of study at Hogwarts and required the caster to concentrate on the incantation. So while most magic required the caster to use their voice, some such as Levicorpus did not, which were apparently designed to be used non-verbally. So this might depend on the witch or a wizard. Some very skilled and powerful wizards and witches could use magic both wandlessly and worldlessly. Dumbledore had been known to do impressive feats of magic without speaking, such as conjuring enough squashy purple sleeping bags to accommodate the entire student population, or his attacks during his duel with Voldemort in the atrium. So, regardless of how skilled a witch or a wizard is, they were by no means without limits. The following were some of the limits of magical abilities. So first, we have the rule of creation. While it was possible to conjure things out of nothing and duplicate items, it was far more tricky to create something that fit an exact specification rather than a general one. So moreover, a magically imitated object would never be as real as the genuine one, with duplicated food being less fulfilling than the real thing, and conjured creatures only demonstrating surface level behavior. So furthermore, magically imitated objects tended not to be as resistant to deterioration as the natural ones, being prone to breaking, cracking, melting, rusting, and other forms of breakdown. Now, for the second one, we have the rule against immortality. So it was almost impossible to make oneself truly immortal, only to extend one's lifespan using powerful magical means such as with the Philosopher's Stone, creating at least one Horcrux was said to grant the person's immortality, as a part of their soul was earthbound. However, it was considered the vilest of acts. Becoming a ghost was another option for wizards and witches, but it was said that this was a pale imitation of life. Whether or not they were truly sentient beings or independent existence is unclear, as Severus Snape stated that a ghost was merely the imprint of a departed soul left upon the earth. Okay, for the third rule, it's the rule against resurrection. Likewise, it was impossible to resurrect the dead. While corpses could be transformed into obedient and free on a living wizard's command, they were little more than zombies with no soul or will of their own. So it was also possible, via the rare priori incantatem effect, to converse with ghost-like shadows of magically murdered people. The resurrection stone allowed one to talk to the dead, but those brought back by the stone were not corporeal, so nor did they wish to be disturbed from their peaceful rest, and the result of such a summoning was usually detrimental to the summoner. Now, there are also devices and items that were endowed with various types of magic that gave them certain properties and abilities. They were used by the wizarding community, and some items were common while others were considered rare. So for the first item, we have the wands. Most human magic was done using a wand. The wand served as a tool to focus and control the magic energy of the spell. It was possible to cast spells without using a wand, but for most wizards, results were unfocused. So wands were created from wood with some magical substance at its heart. Some wands are also made of the feather of the phoenix, or some other materials that contains magical properties. So now the next item, we have the broomsticks. So brooms were magical mode of transportation in the wizarding world. They were also used in the wizarding sport Quidditch. There were several different types of broomsticks, such as the Nimbus 2000 and the Firebolt, which is my favorite and Harry's favorite. So both of the mentioned broom were international standard, and broomsticks were also the worst kept wizarding secret. Okay, Deathly Hallows. They were 3 items: the Elder Wand, the Cloak of Invisibility, and the Resurrection Stone. So they were considered to be a great wizarding secret, and possession of all 3 was reputed to make the owner the Master of Death. So the only known Masters of Death were Albus Dumbledore and Harry Potter. Flying Ford Anglia. The Flying Ford Anglia was a turquoise automobile bought by Arthur Weasley. He bewitched it to be able to fly and installed an invisibility booster. He also magically expanded the inner spaces so that an enormous amount of luggage could fit in the boot. And an amazing number of people could sit comfortably in its wide seats. Now, yeah, it's kind of amazing to have a car that flies. Yeah. Okay, the next item is the Mirror of Erised. It is a magnificent mirror as high as a classroom ceiling, with an ornate gold frame standing on 2 clawed feet. The inscription carved around the top read, Erised stra ero oit ubi kafru oit on wusi. Now, which was a show not your face but your heart's desire, written backward. Marauder's Map. This magical map of Hogwarts Castle showed the entire castle and grounds of Hogwarts, including 7 secret passages out of Hogwarts and into Hogsmeade. However, it did not show the Room of Requirement or the Chamber of Secrets, and the map used the homunculus charm to keep track of everyone at Hogwarts, and was embedded with a repelling spell directed at Snape. Pensieve. A pensieve was a shallow stone basin with ancient Saxon runes and symbols carved around the edge, used to collect and view memories. So, when in use, a silvery light shone from its contents, which were bright whitish silver and cloud-like, moving ceaselessly. Now, Harry thought the stuff in the basin looked like light made liquid, or like wind made solid. Now, for the last item is the portraits and paintings. Portraits were paintings made of certain individuals, namely witches and warlocks. The subject of a magical portrait was sentient due to enchantments placed on the portrait by the painter. The portrait would be able to use some of the subject's favorite phrases and imitate their general demeanor based on how the subject appeared to the painter. However, they were limited in what they could say or could do. That would be all, and thank you for watching.